Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I want to speak about the question, is every watch too expensive? Or the complaint, every watch is too expensive. And I read this complaint under every single video of Watch of the Week, the video series, where I introduce watches, where I make short reviews about recently introduced watches. And under every video, this is way too expensive, this is way too pricey. And last week I've read this. Interesting, right? Apparently people are not longer willing to accept the huge gap between retail prices and prices on the used market. And then they try to figure out what defines a correct market price. And sometimes they're in danger then to argue with the labor theory of value. This is the theory before capitalism, so to speak. This is straight Marxism. And the price there is defined as the amount of labor in it. I'm simplifying a bit right now. In reality, they try to justify prices with the amount of labor and interest rates for capital owners and stuff like that. But the main idea is the amount of work, of labor in the product is the price. And this denies completely the influence of offer and demand, supply and demand. Because if a watch manufacturer says, I have an edition of watches here, 1,000 pieces, and I want to sell every single watch at 20,000 US dollars or euros. And when then 1,000 people come and say, this is a good price, we accept, we pay those 20,000 a piece, in this minute is this then the market price. But then comparison sets in and people compare the 20K with other goods, other products, and then they realize they could buy themselves a really nice used car for 20,000. They could add a nice room to their house with 20,000. They could buy a boat. They could make a vacation which changed their life. They could take a sabbatical for half a year, do something completely different instead of buying that 3-hand Patek, for instance. So they realize then that it's a highly irrational decision to buy that 20,000 US dollar or euro watch. And then we see two reactions to that. Some people just stay away. They spend the 20,000 on the boat, on the house, on the car. And another group of people then accept to be irrational. And those are the people who often say, you're just jealous. You're just jealous. And what they really say is, you're just jealous that I can afford a highly irrational decision. And this sounds douchey, right? But let's not be so harsh. There is some beauty in that sentence. Imagine you are in a developing country. Let's imagine you are from India. Just an example. I've nothing against India. Let's imagine you are a Singh from India. You live there in a small village under some oppression from family and society and economy. You have experienced poverty. You know that poverty can be life-threatening. You know that poverty is the alligator in the garden. And then you are hardworking, you're ambitious, and with your amount of luck, then you manage to get a job in Mumbai. You work for a bank then, and then you're suddenly in the position to afford a watch which represents the entire value of your home village with everything in it. And this might be a highly irrational purchase, but there's some beauty in it because the watch then is a symbol that you have escaped poverty. You have escaped a life-threatening circumstance. And if you cannot agree now, if you cannot see this, if you cannot value this irrational purchase anymore, then maybe you are too rich. Maybe we all are too rich. Our basic needs are completely satisfied. We're not hungry, we have clothes, we live in hot apartments, we have insane amounts of food. And our more advanced needs are also fulfilled. If we are sick, then we go to the doctor. Our kids visit school, they attend classes at the university. So every advanced need is fulfilled, and even our luxury needs are fulfilled. Not 100% of course, but to some extent. I mean, you're watching this channel, so I can expect that you own 1 or 2 or 3 luxury watches. But now let's speak about the people who are satisfied in a way, but they still want the $20,000 Patek. They still want the thing. And my theory is that they often see the watch not longer as a luxury product, but also as some sort of artifact, social artifact, as an entry to some social circles they want to enter. And this sounds stupid too, but I mean, we are all guilty, I think. If you're in a restaurant, then you drink your glass of wine and you will find the wine on the bill with 7, 8 euros, at least in Germany. Here the restaurant owner buys the bottle in a wholesale shop for 5 euros maybe, and then you find it on the menu with a price of 40, and one glass costs 8, and then you have the entire bottle for 48 euros. from 5 to 48, this is like drug trafficking. And of course the wine isn't worth it. Of course it's not. It's a mediocre drop you have there. But you don't pay the wine, you don't pay for the dinner, you pay for the club, which this restaurant is in this moment. You pay to sit there with other people, to enjoy everything, to enjoy the light, the attention, and so, yeah, you don't pay for the wine. And so I think we should be tolerant when it comes to high prices. We're all guilty. We are all guilty here. And so if you are one of those guys who cannot accept high prices for watches, then maybe you are not broke. Probably you are not broke. Probably you are not jealous, and probably you are happy with your social environment, with your social status, with your neighborhood. Maybe you are a satisfied person. And the funny thing is, even if you reflect all this, that, as I said, we are all guilty here. I mean, I own this Rolex Datejust from 1986. This is a 3-hand watch, steel case, and the technology is rather old. And I've paid tons of money for restoration and everything because it's the icon. It's the Datejust. I mean, Ian Fleming was a Datejust owner, and so I'm closer to Ian Fleming with that watch. Maybe I want to be Ian Fleming. This was just an example. I don't want to be Ian Fleming, he's dead. But I think it illustrates the point here. We are willing to pay something extra for the spirit. And if you're not willing to pay that extra for the spirit, then maybe you're just satisfied, which of course is good, but it's only a different form to see life maybe. But now some customer information. If you want to find those brands who offer a good watch at a reasonable price, how can we find those brands? And I think it's relatively simple. You have to stick to the brands who do not advertise with social status, that sort of klimbim. And so I think you should stick then to the brands which advertise with the watch. They say to you, we work as hard as we can to present you a high quality watch, but we want to get paid for this. We want to get paid. We're not cheap. And for me, an example is Sinn, although I'm not the biggest Sinn fan. And another example is Glashütte Original, although they are super pricey. Sometimes they want their 50,000 euros for the watch, but the watch is then loaded with precious metal, with art, with engravings, with a tourbillon, with diamonds. There's everything in it, and they want to get paid for this, and that I can understand. This is in my eyes a high price, but it's somewhat reasonable. Okay, and that's all I want to say about that topic. I'm very curious about your opinion now. Please don't hesitate, put it in the comments. And if you want, then visit me on Instagram. Please, I show their watches, of course, but also handicraft and other shots I find interesting. And now let me thank you very much for your attention, and maybe until next time. It's very early in the morning. I hope the neighbors will like that song. Little sound follow.